All right, so today is Wednesday, the 27th of August, 2025. And we're not having any fundamental event for today. The only one available took place in the night, Nigerian time, at 2:30 a.m. And outside of that, there's no other fundamental event for today. So today is as good as a fundamental free day. The one that was released earlier was from Australia, that's CPI, and the data came out good for the Australian dollar. And outside this, like I said, there's no other fundamental event for today. So what are the implications of that? The implication is that the market might range today because usually it is fundamentals that drive the market. And anytime there's no fundamental, yes, in a way, you may have the market go more technical, but then with little volatility, sometimes little to no volatility, which may end up resulting into a range. So I will advise you trade with a lot of caution today. Don't open too many positions, and if you have any running position, please make sure you manage your risk effectively, because the price may not really go as planned because there's no fundamentals to drive the volatility in the market. All right, so with that being said, I'll move over straight to the charts, and we'll look at the setup that I want to share with us today. Now, I have two major setup which is already evolving, and that's both of them Japanese yen based. That's the USD JPY and the GBP JPY. Those are the two setup I have. Now, for the USD JPY, we can see that the USD JPY is having a symmetrical triangle. Now, there's something, if you follow my analysis for some time, you know that once in a while, it doesn't happen all the time anyway, but once in a while, we do see this setup called symmetrical triangle. So how does this setup work? You can see I've drawn my trend line above and below, and it's forming a triangle-like kind of pattern. Now, the unique thing about this pattern is that price can either break out upwards for a buy or break out downwards for a sell. Wherever the breakout happens, that's where the market is going. So possibly maybe today, if there's volatility, or beyond today, because this is a 4-hour setup, if price breaks out on the upside, that is above the upper trend line, if price breaks out above this region, then we may be looking at buying the USD JPY. And if that happens, we'll be looking at targeting the next high as the profit taking level. Now, we could have had one in between, but there's no other high in between, so we have to stick with what we're seeing. And if on the other hand, price breaks out below this recent low, in fact, for that eye, I think we should even shift it up to this other eye here. I think it's better. It will be safer to look at a breakout above that region up there. All right. So if it breaks out below this recent low, then we'll be looking at a sell downwards. And in that instance, we might be looking at maybe the first take profit level will be the recent low, but the number of pips will not be that much, maybe some 18, 20 pips. Possibly, but I think we should just focus on the bigger one, which is the one below. So we're looking at this level for a sell, as a take profit for a sell, up here for a take profit for a buy. So on the whole, for each of them, for if it's a buy trade, might be looking at capturing on the average close to about, this one is going to be big, about 190 pips if it's a buy. And if it's a sell, we can look at capturing about 57 pips. Now, we don't force the market. It's what the market gives that we take. It is whatever setup we find in the market. So don't say, oh, I want it to be a buy. No, just let the market do its thing. Let the price do its own thing, based on market forces, the forces of demand and supply. And we are just there to follow the market wherever it's going. So it's a symmetrical triangle for those who are just joining us. And this setup can either give us a buy or sell signal depending on the direction of the breakout. So we just watch it in the course of today and see how it goes. Now, the second one, like I said, is equally a JPY, currency pair, and that's the GBP JPY. Now, this one might trigger earlier than the other one because we have a much more sharp setup here. Price is very close to the trend line. And for this one also, If price breaks out above, we'll look at buying. If it breaks out below, we look at selling, and that's on the 4-hour time frame. So for this one also, for a sell, we'll be looking at price breaking out below this support zone, and we'll target the next low there for a take profit, and that can give as much as about 25, 27 pips. And if it's a buy on the other hand, we'll look at price breaking out above the recent high, which is in this case here. And if it's a buy, we may have two profit-taking levels, and that will be this high as the first TP and the second high up there as the second take profit level. So if it's a buy, this is a projection, a TP1 and a TP2. If it's a buy, we're targeting between 30 pips and about 90 pips thereabout. So you can see that in both instances, it looks like if it's a buy either for USDJPY or GBPJPY, there will be a bigger move in the market. Well, let's see how it goes. If it works out like that, perfect. But if not, even if it's a sell, what matters most is that we are following market to the right direction so that we can take whatever profit the market is about to give us. Now, on the other hand, I'm also observing now all the setup I've given, they are strictly on 4-hour for swing. But then also for especially for this GBJPY, there's equally an observation I have here, which is a high probability setup on a lower time frame. So here we have lower high, a third lower high, indicating that the market is trending downwards, and also there is equally a resistance here we cannot ignore. And that's actually a very, very high probability setup. So here we have a confluence at this point. A lower high, a resistance, technically, price might trend downwards. So for this one, we're going to switch over to a lower time frame. Let's just go straight to 15 minutes. And we can see that in the last couple of candles, it's already trending downwards. All right, I think I will take it down to 1 hour. So this is what I will see on 1 hour. If a new candle breaks out below this trend line, then price may target this support. Please take note of what I'm saying. We started at 97 o'clock. We've had some move already. Price already moved on the very short term. I don't want us to just jump into any trade now. All right. So, but if a new candle breaks out below the lower trend line, yes, price will target that support zone. However, if the candle does not break out, there's a very high chance of this evolving into an inverse head and shoulder, which will trigger the upside move. I'll repeat that. If a new candle, you can see this bearish candle now, if a new one comes up and it breaks out below this trend line, yes, we may have price still having the momentum to drop further to the next support level. But if that does not happen, if price gets to this trend line and does not break it, this is already forming what looks a lot like an inverse head and shoulder, and price may just reverse back up to trigger the bullish breakout on this instrument. So I would advise you trade with caution. If all that grammar is too, you can't get it, no problem. Just rather wait for a breakout on the upside. On the big picture, I think this might break out to the upside. So let's watch out for that, for an upside breakout. And if at all you want to sell, maybe you wait for a clear breakout below the low, on the 4 hour. But on the lower time frame, please trade with a lot of caution. All right. For those who are just joining us, the market is very, very slow today because there's no, so let me say it's going to be slow today because there's no fundamental in the market today. The only fundamental came out in the middle of the night, Nigerian time, 2:30 a.m. So there's no fundamental morning session, no fundamental afternoon session. And anytime such happens, the market often ends up in a range. Though we may see one or two instruments that might, experience some volatility, but across board, there will be no serious volatility. But then I've analyzed two instruments today, the USD where we have a symmetrical triangle and we're expecting a breakout to the upside to buy or a breakout to the downside to sell. And similar setup is also applicable to the GBP JPY, where we are seeing the same symmetrical triangle with an upside for a buy and a downward breakout for a sell. All right, so these are the two major setup I have for us today. And most of the other pairs I've checked, most of them are ranging. So I will advise you trade with a lot of caution. Volatility will be very, very low today. Now, if you have any running trade, please make sure you manage it effectively with the right risk management. It's very, very important. Anytime there is a range, market may just do some irregular kind of movement. So manage your risk effectively. All right, Clement Ogunshola, please analyze gold and BTC. Like I said, volatility is low. So I will only oblige gold and BTC because they're volatile, but I won't be analyzing any other instrument, because volatility is very low today. Most pairs are ranging. All right. So before I go into BTC and gold, I remember for those who joined the afternoon session yesterday, I said for US oil that we are expecting a downward movement on this instrument. And yesterday candle closed as a bearish engulfing candlestick, on a previous support on resistance, overall bearish downtrend. There's a possibility of a continuation. But to be honest, I don't know if that will happen much today because of the low volatility. It's a 50-50. It may sell or it may range. Volatility is low. But technically, we have a bearish engulfing, which may lead into a bearish breakout, a bearish movement. Now, take note, I did not say take a sell. Volatility may be low, but just for educational purpose, you may just watch this particular setup. It's a setup I've given like 2 weeks ago and is working exactly as planned. But because of the low volatility today, take a lot of caution around it. Now for gold and BTC, our outlook on gold has been bullish and price broke out a little above the resistance yesterday. Just saw a slight move and price is back. Now price is back to the range zone. There's nothing we can do. Just stay out of gold for now until there's clarity. Price is back to the range zone. There's nothing, no analysis on gold at the moment. And I'll go to BTC USD. Yeah, I gave a bullish outlook a couple of days ago, though it eventually went bullish, but not, at the areas we expected it to happen. But nonetheless, we still saw. Okay, I think yesterday afternoon I said an inverse head and shoulder. Yeah, price broke out as expected yesterday. It really did break out as expected. Now, what's the next direction for BTC USD? Let me use my Fibonacci tool. Okay, using Fibonacci, price hits this region here. That's a Fibonacci 38.2, formed a rejection candle. Well, it's not a signal, but we may see a downtrend. At least price may come down, maybe to touch this area. Like I said, it's not a signal, but any wave of any movement we want to see on BTC now, uh, price may drop, like I said, and it's a 50-50, it may drop or not. But then this is what I'm looking out for. If whether it drops or not, I'm looking at the possibility of an inverse head and shoulder forming here, which can lead to a further bullish breakout because technically and fundamentally BTC is bullish. We have a bullish setup, but volatility may not be strong to drive it. See, it's one thing to have market in a direction, it's another thing to have the volatility to drive it. So when you have a direction and there's no volatility, it may shock you that instead of the buying, it may just sell, and you don't want to get caught up in such kind of move. So this is what I will watch out for on BTC USD, the formation of an inverse head and shoulder, and that means that I have to wait for price to break out above this region before I take the next step, which could be a buy. So you can watch out for BTC in the course of the day. We are bullish, but we are waiting for the clear formation of the inverse head and shoulder before we trigger any setup. All right, that's going to be all from our analysis this morning. You can join us in the afternoon for the afternoon session. Possibly there will have been some volatility in the afternoon then, which can give us more trading opportunities. All right, that will end this the end of the analysis this morning. Do take care and have a great day ahead. Bye bye.
Thank you very much, sir. Have a great day.
You too, man.
Bye.